what you about to go through. Yo. All right. All right.
How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about a brazen church robbery that happened yesterday during Sunday service in Brooklyn, New York City. And to be more exact, it was on Ramsden Avenue in Canarsie. Now, I do have video of the actual robbery. I'll link to that in the description if you want to see it without my commentary. I will play it right here, but first, we got to back up. There's a lot to this story, a lot of twists and turns, and some things you may not expect. First and foremost, the quote-unquote bling-bling pastor, we'll talk about that in a minute, by the name of Lamar Whitehead, was giving the sermon. In the middle of it, he sees a door in the back of the room get kicked open. He's a black male, I suppose. He has a black congregation. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But then here come 4 armed young black men into the church, and they make a beeline straight for the pastor. And there's a reason for that. But before I get into all the details, let's roll the clip. In this clip, you're going to see the robbery happen. You're going to hear from the pastor. And after we get done watching that, I'll come back. I'll talk about what was said there. Then I'll give you the rest of my 2 cents and my deep detail analysis. And then I'll wrap it on up with a nice bow on top. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
A Brooklyn bishop was robbed at gunpoint in the middle of his Sunday sermon today, and it was all caught on camera. The service was being live streamed this morning when he says 3 to 4 men walked in with guns. He spoke at length with CBS 2's Lisa Rosner about why he believes he was targeted and his message for the suspects.
5 to 10 minutes into preaching Sunday morning on Remsen Avenue in Canarsie, Bishop Lamar Whitehead saw the door in the back of the room kick open.
How many of you have lost your faith because you saw somebody else die what you about to go through? Yo. All right.
I seen 3 to 4 men come in. I said, all right. It's pretty much stating that I'm not going to do anything, right? Because I know y'all coming for me. Y'all coming straight to me. I don't want my parishioners hurt, right? I got women and children there. As I got down, one went to my wife and took all her jewelry and had the gun in front of my 8-month-old baby's face. Took off my bishop's ring, my wedding band, and took off my bishop's chain, and then I had chains underneath my robe. He started tapping my neck to see if anything else. So that means they knew. They watched and they knew that I have other jewelry.
The church's live stream shows the gun being held on the pastor.
They had the guns on my deacons that was at the door.
Whitehead says what you don't see on camera are around 100 congregants who were in the room. Men, women, and children dropped to the floor in silence.
My church is traumatized. The women and children are still crying. Still crying. Babies are still crying.
Police say the men took off in a white Mercedes. Whitehead says cops have a license plate and witnesses saw the men change clothes outside.
These men, they need to turn themselves in. I forgive you, and I'm praying for you. And I hope that God deliver you from the mindset of who you are at this time.
Whitehead believes his family was targeted because of the publicity he received when he helped turn in the suspect wanted in the fatal subway shooting of 48-year-old Daniel Enriquez in May.
I turned them in, but the media called me the bling bling bishop. They had my Rolls Royce car all over everywhere, and I feel that played the part in this. I think all pastors should be able to get permits for pistols.
The NYPD is investigating, and Whitehead says the mayor and top police brass have called him, pledging support to find the suspects. Fortunately, no one was hurt. In Canarsie, Brooklyn, Lisa Rosner, CBS 2 News.
In a statement, a spokesperson for Mayor Adams said, quote, no one in this city should be the victim of an armed robbery, let alone our faith leaders and congregants worshiping in a house of God. The NYPD is investigating this crime and will work tirelessly to bring the criminals involved to justice.
All right, so you saw that, you heard that. Now, just one thing before I really get into my analysis of the whole situation. Why have you not seen this on television? Why has it not really been big news? Why are you hearing about it right here for the very first time? Is it because it's black on black violence? That's part of it. Is it because nobody got shot? Thankfully, that's part of it. I think those two things are the main reason. Okay, if one bullet was to ring out and it was a racial component there. Like, let's say it was a black church and it was some white guys that did that, the whole robbery thing. Oh, you would hear about it nonstop. And if it was a rifle involved, oh my goodness, that'd really be made for primetime television. But because those factors were not there, you're hearing about it here for the first time. But I digress. Let's get to the whole nitty gritty. Now, why was the pastor robbed? Why did they call him the bling pastor? What's going on? First of all, let's talk about the robbery. What did they steal? They immediately went for the pastor and the pastor's wife. They like the pastor said, they took jewelry and stuff like that. Jewelry up under his choir robe or whatever that's called. Pardon my ignorance. Don't shoot me over the ignorance. But they went straight for the pastor and the pastor's wife. Why? Because he had been labeled as the bling pastor on television. They took $400,000 in jewelry in the church that day. So maybe the characterization of him as a bling pastor was not really off. And if I could find a picture of Mr. Whitehead, flossing, as the cool kids say, showing his jewelry off, I'll show it on the screen. Also, I'll link to it in the description so you already know what it is. Okay, he is a flashy pastor. The news media, they took a hold of it. They put him out there as a flashy pastor. He put himself out there, by wearing the jewelry. So now he becomes a target. You're in Brooklyn, you're in Canarsie, and these guys are hungry, and you're a whole plate of food. You are an entire ration to these guys. Okay, you're like a 2-month ration to these guys. More than that, they took 400 bands. Like if it's 4 guys and they split the pie, that's $100,000 each. So that's a pretty big hit. It's a pretty big lick, as the cool kids say. But here's the question. Why was the pastor in the news? What did he do to become newsworthy? Is it just flossing? Is it just having expensive jewelry? Is that it? No. Let's go back to the subway shooter. Oh, yeah, this is related. Now, the subway shooter on the Q train shot the man who was going to brunch. I believe his name was Daniel Hernandez. And the shooter had some kind of Muslim last name. I'm not going to pronounce it. It doesn't really matter. The point is that the man that was shot, Daniel Hernandez, I think he was some kind of Wall Street exec. Maybe I'm wrong about that. He was just going to brunch. He gets shot, killed on the Q train in the middle of the daytime. Now, allegedly, the pastor says that he knows the shooter's family. So he contacts the family and tries to broker a surrender because the guy was on the run, right? He calls the family to broker a surrender. They're kind of going back and forth. I think they say, okay, we want him to get a lawyer or something like that. Let him go to legal aid and get all that taken care of. And then after that, he'll be able to just go down to the precinct and surrender and take it from there. Well, what happened was he goes to legal aid and then they arrest him right outside the offices of legal aid. Legal aid put out a statement talking about it wasn't necessary for them to ambush him right there. But I mean, this guy's on the run. You shot somebody and killed him on the subway, broad daylight. I mean, come on. Like, they're not really going to let you do whatever you want to do. But see, the pastor was involved. Legal aid said that the pastor had no connection. Well, if the pastor had no connection, why was he at legal aid? Why did the pastor say that was going to happen? I mean, come on. I think that he was involved with the whole handoff. And also, the pastor had called Eric Adams, the New York City mayor, because he has a connection to Eric. Now, I don't know if Eric's from Brooklyn or if he grew up with the guy. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But he called Eric Adams to say, hey, I got the guy. I'm talking to the family, and we're going to go ahead and do an exchange, with him and the police, etc. And the media were saying that Eric Adams and the quote-unquote bling pastor, again, this is why he was called the bling pastor, because he was in the news because of the whole Q shooter thing, Q train shooter. The media said that Eric Adams and Lamar Whitehead were trying to do a high-profile thing for the media. Hey, we got him. We're on the job. We're fighting crime, etc. You see, that's kind of how that whole thing played out. Now, as a result of the media coverage, again, this is high profile. You got a guy that gets killed on the subway train in the middle of the daytime. And then the pastor is being profiled as a bling pastor. They're showing his jewelry, talking about how much it costs. Now he becomes a target of the guys in the community that want to go ahead and get that. Okay. Now I'm not saying that the guy had no role to play in it. They couldn't do that to you, sir, if you were not flossing. See, I'm not saying he deserved to get robbed because you are not a lawbreaker. You are a law-abiding citizen. Now, for clarity, for being totally transparent, I think Lamar Whitehead does have a prior conviction of some kind of fraud or something like that. I don't know the exact charge, but there is a record. But that doesn't mean that you deserve to be victim of a crime, that you deserve to get robbed just because you have a prior record, and that's because you're flossing. However, just as a safety precaution, I don't floss, right? I got a little bit of change, a little teeny bit. I got about $5 in the bank. I got about $5 in a bag of chips in the bank, right? However, you would never see the bag of chips just on me, on my neck, chilling. I like the way I dress right now. This is pretty much, if you see me in public, you see me in Atlanta, you see me in Nashville, New York, LA, wherever I'm at, I'm gonna look just like this. Okay, maybe I won't have the hat on if it's real hot, but I'm gonna look just like this. Maybe it'd be a blazer on if I got to go to some kind of meeting or something like that. But that's pretty much me. I'm not gonna be flossing. What kind of car do I drive? I have a Toyota Tundra. Okay, to me, it's like a Lamborghini, but I would never drive a Lamborghini. I don't want to be, so like out there like that to where I become a target. Again, I'm not saying it's his fault that he got robbed. I'm not saying his fault that these 4 armed men kicked the door down of the church during the service and scared 100 parishioners. I'm not saying it's his fault. However, you can do things to lower that chance of you becoming a victim of a crime. That's all I'm saying. All right. Like if you are Mr. Balling Out of Control, going to the club, bottles in the club, and then you hop in your Lamborghini and go home and some guys follow you. I mean, you stood out to them. They marked you by your appearance and what you were doing. And I don't want to go down the road of how pastors and preachers, they get a lot of money from whatever they're doing. I have no idea where the money came from. I don't know if he does this full time, if he's a pastor or a preacher full time, and that's where the money comes from. I have no idea. All I'm saying is that it might not be a good idea to be flossing like that. And the media didn't make it any better by calling him the bling bling pastor. Why you got to call him the bling bling pastor and kind of just throw him under the bus when he apparently was able to get a criminal, a murderer off the streets? I don't really get it, but I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? How you feel about the whole situation with the pastor and these guys targeting the church for a robbery? And why have you not heard about it on the mainstream media at all? Whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. Here's where I'm at with it. These guys that did this totally wrong, and they don't really care. Like these young guys don't care about church, religion, none of that. They don't really care. And I think to a certain extent, people talk about the black community and how we're so Christian and all this and that. I can't tell. I cannot tell. Stuff like this just lets me know that we got a long way to go. We got some serious problems. Religiosity may not be the solution. It may be for some, but not for everyone. Obviously, for these guys that did this, it didn't matter to them. During the church service, I'm talking about a man's at the pulpit in his regalia, in his garb. They didn't really care. Guns out, get on the ground, give it up. For guys like this, what's the solution? Throw them up under the penitentiary forever. Big rocks, little rocks. That's it. Trying to be soft and all this and second chance and mentorship. That ship has been sailed and it's gone to Mars with Elon Musk in them, with his spawn of children. It's not here on Earth. It's not realistic as a possibility anymore. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.